to use. So you know that in SuperMemo, you can actually request your forgetting index, which by default it's set to 10, which roughly speaking equals to 95% retention rate. Not 90%, 95, which strictly speaking it's 94.91%, I think. The sum is not necessarily 100%. But you also know that this is the default. You can request this per element basis. So here there is a column fi, forgetting index. In some I have 10, which is the default value, and in some others I have def, def, for short for default. You may think, well, what's the difference if the default is 10? What's the difference if I have any of them? There is, not now, but there will be open a change. You see 10 and default. Cool. Let me go again to the options. And 06, by the way. So now the default points to number 6. So if I open again my items, what is this? Let me select one. Says default, but now forgetting index is 6%. So I have changed all of the items that are pointing the default. But what happened? That some didn't point to the default. They have a value like 10 or 7. So this isn't affected. What's the difference is that instead of having a hard-coded value, they are pointing to the default. Whatever the default of the collection is, use that. So now happens that they have different. So all of those are untouched because they had 10, and hey, those are default. And that's yet another detail. What happens if I create a card? Let's do that. Let's say that I create an element, an item, by closation. So by default, it will have 10%. Are you sure that's the default or it's 10? Forgetting index is actually 10. It's not using my default. Let's make it more obvious. Oh, it's already 6. It's not my default. How is that even possible? How this behaves? Let's get the concept. It's an import concept. I can only have default priority, not default forgetting index. So how come? This element is hard-coded to 10. We can actually see it in the browser view. And indeed, it's 10. It's not pointing to the default. But if I create an element, an item, right away, like this, what's going to happen? Ba-ba-ba-boom! It's using the default of the collection, 6% in this case. As a reminder, it's 6. Now I will change it to 4%. What happened here? It's 6%. Still, let me check if it's just a UI that is not being updated. And it's 6. So ironically, it doesn't update. That means that when you create an element, in this case an item, with this as a standalone, without closation, it will set the value, the forgetting index of what's currently the default on your settings in the collection. But it won't be set as default. It will have that value hard-coded. So if I change that value as I did, I change it to 4%, it's being ignored. It's just still 6. But only that. If I do an item, what happens now? Hey, look at that. The topic, a topic in SuperMemo has a forgetting index. Why? Why a topic has a forgetting index? Should only items have forgetting index, right? I don't actively recall, I don't rate topics when I repeat them. It's setting the default. In this case it's 4. That means that when I do a close deletion on a topic, the item that is created will inherit that forgetting index from the topic. In this case, 4%. Let's double check. And hey, that's the wrong assumption. Look here. The forgetting index says default. So actually, it's not inheriting the value from the topic. It's inheriting the status of being the default. That means that if I change now the default forgetting index to 20, let me refresh. The topic now has 20% because it says default equals 20. It's more explicit. But for whatever reason, when it's an item, it doesn't
Let's learn.
该飞吃，该飞吃，该飞吃， Gila mais udole. Gila mais udole. Zale. Gila mais. Gila mais udole. Gila mais udole. Gila mais.
What do you think about this top?
Nigeria.
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 Nigeria. Nigeria. Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
큰 가족 캠크닙
we need to download. So I'll right click over here and I'll click on copy and I'll select copy element. So the entire HTML data is copied. HTML data for this table attribute we need to download. So I'll right click over here and I'll click on copy. So I need to extract the URLs alone. So I'm going to use this website gchq.github.io/cyberchef. So I'm going to paste the entire data which we copied, the HTML data, the table with the table attribute, and I'm going to extract the URLs. So I'll search for URL and there is extract URL. So if I drag and drop over here, you can see the URLs are extracted here already. So I will just copy this and I'll paste it on Excel. So you can see the URLs, only the URLs. So HTTP, HTTPS, and HTTPS URLs. So we just need to filter out the rows which has one over here. So I'll create a new row on the top. So I'm going to use curl to download all these files. So in order, the curl command would be like it's going to be like this: curl.exe -o followed by the URL. So this is the command. So we just need to add uh, this command in front of each and every line. So I'll use regex to add the data, add this in front of each and every line. So let me click on Control H and I'll put a caret symbol. So that means beginning of each line we need to type curl.exe -o, and I'm going to delete these two lines. So curl installed, curl setup on your laptop or your okay, it's downloading the first file. The first file is downloaded, you can see it over here. See, scrape media from websites.
Ja nie vendeava.
Hey yo, what's up guys? What's up guys? Welcome to the stream everybody. Welcome to the stream. You didn't stream for like 8 years. Okay, relax. I didn't stream for 2 days. 2 days. I'm here now.
Can you stop taking the...
Yeah. All I had to do was complain. Hope he flashes here on me. Ay, I'm dead. He ignited. I could have killed him. I haven't played a game in a while. I'm gonna be a little bit rusty.
High balls. We want Tar back. Tar il love. Tar is life. Tar is everything. Love from Italy.
If I can bait him to go on me here. Well, I baited him, that's for sure. Versus Garen, what you want to do is you want to try and bait out his W first with a normal Q. There we go, got his W. And now I want to try and bait out his Q. And when those two are down, you can look for a trade back. But you need to be careful because he's gonna beat you. There we go. You gotta play very smart into a Garen. You gotta play smart. Don't be stupid. So now bait out his Q. Bait out his W. And we're able to secure the kill. Beautiful stuff coming out here. Beautiful stuff. You can never go wrong with a 1-for-1. Come on. Ah, there we go. Big. Good job, everybody. Good job. Beautifully played. I'm thinking Profane Hydra on Sion. The thing with Profane Hydra is that Profane Hydra is not a good Sion item, but Profane Hydra is a really good item in general. So it's kind of like, should you build it on Sion just because the item in itself is really strong? Or should you not build it because it's not a very good Sion item, you feel me? Like, is it strong enough of an item to be good even on Sion? I think Briar might be topside here. She took grubs. Let's kite downwards, at least get the wave if I'm gonna die here. Oh man, I'm trolling. Fuck. Gonna have W. Nej. Man, You skipped us for 2 days. I was away, man. I got a call from the pops. Hey son, I need some help carrying stuff. Hey dad, don't worry about it. You called the right guy. I got you.
Ke zita sethu
和青菜，蹦蹦跳跳真可爱。小白兔，白又白，两只耳朵竖起来，爱吃萝卜和青。
Hi kids, do you like rabbits?
跳真可爱，小白兔白又白，两只耳朵竖起来。
真可爱，两只耳朵竖起来。
佢只鳥呀五對父愛，佢拉麥子五多嚟，佢是大寫，佢是大寫，咋嘞？佢是大，佢是大寫，佢是大寫，佢是大。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So when you open any text file in Notepad, it also open all the recent files, all the recent text file, and it also opens in the same window. So if you want to stop it, then please follow the steps shown in this video. Now for this, open Notepad. On Notepad on the top right here you can see settings. Click on settings, and then over here you can see opening files. Choose where your files are open. If you want it to open in new window, you can select new window over here. Now over here you can see when Notepad starts, click on the down arrow and select the option which says open a new window.
He has nothing. Yeah, Shola Bolo. We have to carry like beds, right? Or like we carry a lot of stuff. But one time we carried beds. Got like one bigger bed and then one smaller bed. I'm like, yo, Dad, you're pushing 60. How about you let me take the heavy bed? No. Take the small one. He takes the big one, I take the small one. 10 minutes later, oh, my back is hurting so much. Classic. Sure, let me. Nice. Ah, fuck. That's gonna be on us. I'm gonna get you! Bro, fucking Senna slows me, man. No fooling around, are we, kids? Ah, stunned for 5 years. How did the Wei died? How did I kill the Wei? I'm gonna stay here, they're gonna try and stop me. I have ulti, I'm just gonna kill them. Should be an easy double. Just need to bait out the black shield, there we go. And it's a double kill. As predicted, of course. There we go. Come on, come on. Had a guy come up to me when I was in the restaurant. Hey, are you Bose? I'm like, yeah. He looked like, I don't know, he looked a little bit older, I guess. He was like, me and my kid watch you all the time. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. That's fucking cool, big. That's wholesome. And then it hit me. Need to be a better representation for these kids who watch me. I can't go around fooling around. Need to be set a good example. Ow. Because like lately, I've been toxic lately. Ridiculous stuff. Oh, get me out of here. Man, I'm being silenced. A moron, idiot. I'm silenced, I'm snared, I'm stunned. I play this. Ah, he's out. Ooh. 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 Help me. Nämen! Okay.
Incremental greetings. I want to communicate why comparing Anki against Super Memo doesn't make sense. It is an absurd comparison. And as an expert, instead of going to details and the features, this and that, I will use a very simple analogy. So, for me, flashcards and a spaced repetition, which is what Anki has, for me will be the storage capacity. And I will compare the storage capacity of a wardrobe against the storage capacity of a Tesla car. And what? A Tesla? That is absurd. That's the point. I want to convey how absurd this comparison is. Because even if a Tesla is a car, if I want, I could just buy it and use it as a wardrobe, just to store clothing. A very expensive and bulky wardrobe, but hey, there's a trunk, so I can just have clothing there. They have this in common. The same that Super Memo also have flashcards and a spaced repetition, among a plethora of features, like in a Tesla car, that will have the self-driving, the computer, artificial intelligence, the lighting, and all of that. But you may think that, wait, Anki, as an Anki user, that I only heard about Super Memo here and there, I have seen some pictures, screenshots here and there, I think that Super Memo is just another flashcard app, right? That is about, what should I use, Anki or Super Memo? And that is what you may think, and that is what I want to convey, that it's not the case. Swanky is not a Tesla car. So a common use of the trunk will be groceries. But hey, I'm not using Tesla as a car. I'm not going to drive it. So therefore, instead of groceries, I will have clothing. It will stay at home, like a furniture. I will use a Tesla car as a furniture, like a wardrobe. And you would say, hey, wait a second, the Tesla car could have a second trunk at the front. So you have like an additional storage capacity. And remember what we have said, that the analogy is that the storage capacity is flashcards and a space repetition, is what they have in common. Because Anki and SuperMemo have flashcards and a space repetition in common as well. So you can have even more space, more storage. You could interpret these as add-ons, that they could expand the features of Anki. By the way, you may think, hey, that's an add-on for incremental reading. Yes, they have the name of incremental reading. It's more or less trying to implement the concepts, but the flow is not incremental reading at all. It does not satisfy the minimum definition of incremental reading. But I'm not going to go into details here. So reality is that Anki is not a Tesla. It's just a wardrobe. Remember that a wardrobe has storage capacity and storage capacity only. Doesn't have driving capacities, the AI to self-drive, none of that. But hey, storage is all required. Remember that storage is space repetition and flashcards. Anki is just this. And SuperMemo is the full-fledged Tesla car that has storage, the storage capacity, therefore flashcards and the space repetition, and a lot more features, and a huge array of features that comes from incremental reading. Because at the end of the day, even if we are comparing SuperMemo and Anki, what we are comparing is what the software is implementing. Anki is just implementing space repetition with virtual flashcards. That's it. And SuperMemo is implementing what's called incremental reading. And without going into details, the difference is that you have the entire learning process, unlike Anki. That means that as a user, hey, I have learning sources. I have this book, textbook, article, Wikipedia page, Reddit post, YouTube video, or podcast episode, whatever that is a source for learning purposes, or even assignment if you want. All the process to read this, to process this information, make sense, understand it, manage the information overflow, the priorities, blah, 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 a lot of features that I will not mention. But at the end of the day, once you have learned something, you will want to keep this in your memory. Therefore, you will make flashcards of that, of what you decide to remember. And this is when Anki starts. So there's, in this comparison of SuperMemo and Anki, there's only this overlap. But once I have learned something, then I want to keep this in my long-term memory. Therefore, I create the flashcard, and then this flashcard will be scheduled in the future to help me as a human keep this in my long-term memory. In Anki, you only have the flashcards. You may have the flashcards done manually or by copy and pasting from other sources. You go through a book and do the flashcards on the side, or you may do it in a spreadsheet and then import this in bulk, or perhaps you just use someone else's decks and cards, so you don't create any card yourself. But the point is this, that you only have the storage capacity of the wardrobe, space repetition, and flashcards. You don't have all of the learning process, because in SuperMemo, all of the learning process is within the app. Since the material that we mentioned, the source material, until the flashcard and rehearsement, everything is inside SuperMemo. Everything is part of the learning process, the incremental reading, the Tesla. So I have the driving, the computer that tells me the temperature, how close are other vehicles, tell me to, and the lighting, all of those features that the wardrobe is a static, it doesn't have, right? I hope I made clear enough how this comparison doesn't hold, doesn't make sense, because at the end of the day, you're comparing different softwares, different methodologies, and one is a subset of the other. And another thing I want to convey, that is the SuperMemo wiki page. It's user-based, it's not official. And in the year 2000, 4 years ago, there was one event called Humans of SuperMemo. And what happened, that I wrote that, and at that time, I only was 4 months in SuperMemo. And that's the key, because unlike most people, I only thought about SuperMemo as a flashcard app. A very old, the original, okay, but it's just a flashcard app, and that's not the case. And once I tried SuperMemo for real, in this case 4 months, I realized that SuperMemo is not a replacement for Anki, because Anki is a space repetition only. I don't have incremental reading. Most of what I do in SuperMemo, I cannot do it in Anki. Remember, it's just basically this. In SuperMemo, what is using blue is what I can do in Anki. And all of the learning process that I can do in SuperMemo, I cannot do it in Anki. Easy as that. Those are my 2 cents. Let me know your opinion.
nghĩ不出马尔泽囊。
Today I want to talk to you about how I was able to feel much more at ease talking to people. I knew deep down, I knew within myself that I had this sort of unlived chapter of my life I wanted to write. And so I sort of looked at myself and thought, you know, I'm 25, I'm not gonna get any younger, so this is the time to do it. So I grabbed my balls and went for it. And the beginning wasn't very glorious. You know, sometimes I would walk around for like hours and not talk to anyone. The worst was sometimes I would see a girl and, you know, start walking towards her, and literally 3 feet, a meter away from her, I would freak out and change direction. I felt pretty useless, but for some reason I kept trying. It was very frustrating, but I think that one of the things that kept me going was that ultimately I knew that it was all within my control. When you see someone you want to talk to and you can't, I mean, it's never because there's a trap in front of you that, you know, you might fall into and die. It's always because of how you perceive the situation and all of the stories you tell yourself in your head. And so deep down, I knew that this was me against myself and that it was within my control. After some time, I eventually did it. I don't remember quite vividly, but I remember being overly anxious. I actually remember stuttering a few times and obviously getting rejected. But the best part was that it felt amazing. Even though I was rejected, the simple fact that I wanted to do something and I did it, that, you know, I took action, made me feel like the biggest baller. And you would think that the realization enabled me to then start talking to whoever I wanted. But the weirdest part was that actually not at all. When I saw the next cute girl around, it felt like I was back to square one, completely frozen and unable to say anything. And that really troubled me, because, you know, if I tell you that you cannot hurt yourself, then, you know, maybe you're gonna try to do all sorts of stunts, jump from building to building or whatever. But here I was in a situation where I knew that taking action and going for it would make me feel amazing, yet when I was presented with another opportunity, I was still frozen. But eventually, after a few weeks, I started noticing a pattern. I noticed that, you know, I have days where I sort of randomly talk to more people than usual. Maybe I joke with someone in line, maybe I talk to the barista, and for some reason, I realized that the days where I had more interactions, I was just much more likely to feel the courage to walk up to a girl and talk to her, as if the previous interactions were sort of a warm-up to that moment. And so from that moment on, I started to look for every opportunity I had to talk to anyone so that I could basically warm myself up. And as I started to become hyper aware of all of the opportunities around me, I started noticing something surprising. I basically realized that I would censor myself quite a lot. And by this I mean that, you know, we all have little moments in our daily life where, you know, there is someone next to you. Maybe it's an old man, maybe it's a cute girl, maybe it's a dude. And for some reason, you want to say something. You want to make a joke, you want to make a compliment. Maybe you just want to say hello and like start an interaction. And for some reason, you don't, right? Like you think about it, you look at the person, and then you're like, yeah, whatever, and you just keep to yourself. And at first, you know, if you take each of those little situations independently, you know, they're worthless. I mean, who cares if you didn't make a joke to an old man in the bus, or if you didn't give that compliment to that old lady with a hat? But I started realizing that those moments happen to me very often, and I sort of started wondering, like, you know, what would be their compound effect over the scale of my life? I started realizing that I was effectively censoring myself day in and day out, and I started wondering about what impacts could it have on me. And the first one I noticed is that, you basically create this habit of censoring yourself. I mean, you want to say something, you want to like throw a ball, but instead you keep it in, and you keep it so often that in the end it feels out of the ordinary to just say what you want to say. And the second effect really happens over time because, every time you want to say something but you don't, you prevent yourself from experiencing something new, from meeting someone, from experiencing maybe an awkward moment. And the thing is, as those experiences add up, they can change the trajectory of your life. I mean, who would you be today if you had expressed yourself even half of the times in the last 10 years? I mean, the way you feel about expressing yourself, the way you relate to people, all of this would be different. And at that moment, it hit me. Remember when I said, when I saw the next cute girl around, it felt like I was back to square one, completely frozen and unable to say anything. Well, I understood why. Self-expression is like a pipe. So if you want to express something and you say it, that thing, leaves your pipe and your pipe stays clear. But when you want to say something and you don't, that unexpressed emotion stays within your pipe. And since you censor yourself all the time, it ends up clogging you. And this was the reason it was so hard for me to talk to the second girl. It was because even though I had said something the first time and, a little drop went through, I was still very much clogged. This realization was a huge turning point for me. I basically went from being externally motivated by, meeting women, getting her number, feeling validated, to something much more internal, much more intrinsic. Am I able to express myself? Am I able to be true to myself? And I started asking myself a simple question every time. Did I express myself or did I censor myself? That single question allowed me to grow much more in tune with myself and feel grounded. I think it's easy to forget that interacting with other people is first and foremost about expressing yourself. And your ability to express yourself and to be true to yourself is really the foundation of all of your relationships. By shifting the focus on myself, I very quickly started interacting with much more people than I could ever imagine. And I very quickly became much more comfortable and at ease.
Hi, welcome to programming. If you've never learned to program before, you might be wondering what programming actually is. Well, when we write a program, we're giving the computer a series of commands that kind of look like a weird form of English. You can think of a computer as a very obedient dog, listening to your every command and doing whatever you tell it to do. So what's so cool about programming? Well, it really depends on what you think is cool. Because as it turns out, programs help self-driving cars know which way to turn, which is pretty important. Programs help for movies like Harry Potter to have such cool special effects. What's your favorite movie? I bet that a computer helped make it somehow. Programs on Khan Academy, you'll learn how to write JavaScript programs to make drawings, animation, the same, be able to learn other programming languages. Let's begin programming by making a face with circles. To draw a circle, we need to use the ellipse command. So I'll type ellipse in this editor. After I write a command name in a program, I always follow it with parentheses and a semicolon. But I don't see an ellipse. The right side is still that boring white canvas. Well, there's no ellipse yet because I need to give more information about where to draw the ellipse and what size it should be. Since I am drawing a face, I want this ellipse to be smack in the center of the canvas and pretty big. I'll type 4 numbers in that'll make that happen, and we'll explore why they work. Ta-da! A face. Okay, so this first number, what does it control? I can change it by clicking on it and using the number scrubber that pops up. Watch, it's moving across the canvas. So this number controls how far the ellipse is from the left side of the canvas. What about the second number?
In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the fastest way of writing JavaScript in Visual Studio Code. Your VS Code editor and head to the in Code Runner, then click Install. Now, once you do that,